Heyo everybody, Haku here with a quick Tower of God theory, I guess. I guess it's kind of a theory, kind of more of a discussion maybe. But basically the premise behind this, because I think the easiest way I can sum it up is just to say that, the Floor of Death, Kun already brought it up. It doesn't have a guardian, so he was like, I don't really know how Shinsu is going to work without a guardian to make contracts with. So I think that's interesting because I really feel, and I felt from the beginning, like even if everybody wanted to go and Yuri said everyone's strong enough, not everyone would really have the capability to be able to fight there, so they might leave people behind because of that. Now, I came up with all this before last chapter, so before everyone said they wanted to go, but I still don't think everyone will be able to go. And as well with Albelda, I really, deep in my heart, it seems like Rachel has found a way. She wouldn't be planning to go to the Floor of Death without getting Joaquin's last clone if she didn't know of a way to get Joaquin onto the Floor of Death without him having to fuse with the last clone. So if he can get off the train without fusing completely with every single clone, there should be a way for Albelda to as well, so I do think Albelda is going to be part of the group that goes to the Floor of Death. I think that they're going to find a way, and maybe even that's why it was brought up in this chapter that she said she couldn't leave the train. Maybe it was brought up just so that they could find a solution, and it wouldn't be like an ass pull or anything, because the solution will be to a problem that we've already been presented with this chapter. So we have some time to figure that out. We still have a few more floors to go, but I just think that we are going to find a solution for Albelda. So I got a bit distracted there, but the basic thought is that the people that will go and the people that can use Shinsu are people that, like, say, people that don't fall under any of these circumstances obviously can't make a contract, therefore they shouldn't be able to use Shinsu there. So let's say the people that can use Shinsu there are irregulars because they can bypass and break the rules of the tower. So we'll say irregulars can use Shinsu there. I would say that princesses as well, because when they do whatever they do when they get Zahard's power, they probably inherit some sort of Zahard contract that goes along with that. And even so, if they were born into one of the 10 families, which usually they are, people born into the 10 families, which is another condition, are born with contracts, so they don't have to just go make one at the beginning of each floor, I don't think. They just have the contracts built in, and that's why people like Bayak Ryun, who is an orphan, was probably born under one of the 10 families, and that's how they can use Shinsu without making a contract. Another special case I could think of is maybe if somebody is an ignition weapon or uses an ignition weapon, because it is the weapon using its own soul's Shinsu in kind of a way, the devil within it using that Shinsu rather than manipulating the outside Shinsu. So maybe ignition weapon users / ignition weapons are also cool to use Shinsu on the Floor of Death and will be part of Baam's group moving forward there. And lastly, I would say mad dogs as well, because through the blood fusion process, mad dogs are sort of bred with a bunch of different families' blood, and it is kind of presumed that among those would be the 10 families' blood, which is how they're trying to make them the strongest creatures. I mean, Varagarv himself, he has the black hair, the red eyes, and he's really strong and resilient physically, so that makes me think that, okay, maybe Varagarv could have some Ha family blood in him. So I think that mad dogs would also be an exception in that they have the blood of a lot of different families and potentially 10 family blood, so they could potentially also have the inherent contracts. What makes the thought behind this interesting to me is that it's set up in a way that if this is the way that Shinsu and being able to use Shinsu on that floor works, then SIU set this up pretty beautifully ahead of time so that Rachel's team, everybody we know so far, with the exception of maybe Traveler, they can all still use their powers there. Kasano is an ignition weapon, Rachel's an irregular, and then of course Joaquin is from the Arie family and Yura is from the Ha family, so they can all still use all of their powers on the floor of test because they can either break the rules, have the built-in contract when they're born, or are an ignition weapon using the Shinsu of the devil within themselves. So they can all use their powers, but Baam's team can't all use their powers, and they'll have to select the people that can use their powers to actually go and be able to track down and fight Rachel's team there. Because they couldn't send somebody like, say, Miseng after them. Miseng falls under none of those categories, and she can't make a contract with no guardian there, so she likely wouldn't be able to use any powers, so there'd be no point in bringing somebody like that along. So with that said, I think the one staying back will probably be like Miseng, Prince, Akraptor, sadly. Sadly, maybe Rack as well. I don't think that Mad Shocker might count as an ignition weapon, but I'm not sure if Rack will be going or not, which is really sad. I really want to see more out of Rack. I really think that he is neglected far too often in the story. But he could definitely stay behind on the train, maybe lead the train group while the group with Baam at the Floor of Death is doing something different. The group on the train can be doing something. So there could be two separate storylines going on. And I think that Sachi and Boro as well, even though they want to chase down Joaquin, they may also have to stay on the train because they don't fall under any of those groups. This goes too for Dan and Jaja, which I don't think it'd be a huge deal if they stayed behind, especially if we have like Akraptor, Prince, and Miseng staying behind. And also Ship and Hatsu, I think, would stay behind because they don't fall into any of those categories. But also, we saw a lot of Ship and Hatsu during the workshop battle, but we didn't see all that much of Anak and Andrasi outside of like one fight each. Pretty much one fight each. They also did a little bit more in the one shot, one opportunity part of it. But since we didn't see much of them in workshop battle, but we saw a lot more of Hatsu and Ship, I think Hatsu and Ship might be part of the train group that does a little bit less, while because they're both princesses and have the power inherited from Zahard, that Andrasi and Anak would both be part of Baam's team that goes on to the Floor of Death. Also, before I get into the actual team that I think is going to go onto the Floor of Death, 4 more that I think could go either way. Barrow, it's sort of, I think that was a translation error about her having an ignition weapon, but if it isn't a translation error and she does have one, then she could possibly be part of that team. Same with Cherry La. She said it sounds interesting. And of course, I've theorized from the beginning that she is a Eurasia, because she has the pink hair and small body like, Miss Ice Strawberry had. And also, she sleeps and lays around all the time like Lorraine does. So I feel like she could maybe be part of the Eurasia family. We'll have to kind of see how that goes. So those 2 could go, but they could also stay behind. No idea. And the same is true with Quattro and Chang. Now, Quattro and Chang, I feel, are more likely to stay behind. But if Quattro, the Blitz family, if they do have built-in contracts like some families, like the 10 families have, then Quattro could potentially go and be able to use his powers. And same with Chang, if Chang is hiding something. If he is, like I've thought about before, maybe the 3rd Mad Dog, then maybe he does have some sort of ability that will allow him to go as well. So those 4, I'm kind of on the fence with whether they could be going or not. So I think that other than Yuri and Evan, of course, and Baam himself being an irregular, he will be going. I think other than that, Baam will have 11 companions that follow him onto the Floor of Death. And these are just the 11 in my opinion, maybe 10, because at first I was counting Albelda as part of the 11 going with him, because she is looking for Joaquin to try to stop him, and she's also got REA blood, she's from the REA family, so I figured that she would be one of the 11, but since she brought up not being able to leave the train, if they don't find a way for her to be able to leave the train, then Albelda's out and it's 10 companions going with Baam. And these 10, I think, first up is going to be Kun. I think that Khun will be going. He's from the Khun family, of course, so he'll be able to use his abilities. I think that Wangnan will be going because we've built up way too much about Wangnan going after Kasano, and we haven't seen Wangnan enough lately for him to be one of the like big main characters. So I definitely think that he'll be going, and we're going to get the reveal of his potential or his secret or something. Maybe he's from one of the 10 families. Maybe he has some of Zahard's power. But he's going to have some special thing that's going to allow him to be one of the 10 that go onto the floor of death. Next up would be Hua Ryun. I think that maybe because she's a guide that it would be an exception, and maybe she just won't fight. She'll just lead the path for them. But I do think that Hua Ryun will be with them, just because I think her and her her role to play as a guide is really important to what is going to be going on. Next up, we have 3 from the 10 families. I think that Yiwa will be going with them because she's from the Yeon family. I think that Ron will be going with them, being from the Khun family. And I think that Novik will be going with them as well because he's from the Ha family. Also, I almost forgot that I think that Lorey is going to go as well because, of course, he's from the Eurasia family, or at least a branch of the Eurasia family. Next up would be 9 and 10, or 8 and 9 if you don't count Albelda. And that would be Anak and Andrasi. They're both princesses, and I think that they have an important story to tell, especially if we run into Garam at the 43rd floor. So I think Floor of Death, those 2 definitely are going to be part of the team that goes with Baam. His 10 companions, 11 counting Albelda. And the 10th or 11th, depending on if Albelda goes or not, I think is going to be Danwa. Now, I think it's going to be Danwa because, again, he is really trying to sort of catch up to Yuraha, bring her to the side of good, and he uses an ignition weapon. So I definitely think that he's not the strongest, but I think he's going to be part of that group. Also, since Wangnan's going and Wangnan has the White Heavenly Mirror, or maybe he'll give it back to Khun, I think that if our group ever runs into like serious trouble or something, and I think this is definitely going to happen if things work out this way, we're going to get in trouble, we're struggling against Rachel's team, then maybe Wangnan's fighting Kasano and it happens, Wangnan will activate the White Heavenly Mirror and release Angel and Elliot, because we know Angel is half from one of the 10 families, and so she has 10 family blood, and Elliot is a mad dog, so he has the blood fusion. So I think that would be one of the big reveal, like, turning point sort of moments in one fight or something will be Angel and Elliot are going to come back, and they both had the ability to use their powers on the Floor of Death as well. And that's it. This one felt a bit rambly at a lot of times, so sorry if it seemed a bit rambly to you all as well. But yeah, that's the basic point. I think Baam and those 10 or 11 are going to be going to the Floor of Death. Everybody else will stay back and do something else on the train. I personally think we're going to find a way for Albelda to leave the train with us, but we might not, and Baam might only have the 10 with them. And then I think also when we're in trouble at some point, we will likely release Angel and Elliot from the White Heavenly Mirror, and they will assist us. So, if you guys liked the video, definitely comment down there and tell me what you think of it. Tell me who you think is going to be part of our Floor of Death team. If you think it's going to be everybody, if you think it's going to be different than what I've theorized, just let me know. Subscribe for more Tower of God, One Piece, The Walking Dead, and a lot more as well. And follow on Twitter also if you want to, because I'll try to keep you updated there as best I can on when I'm posting stuff, or if I need to push anything back. So, thank you so much once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.